Welcome to Constitution Study Television. I am Douglas V. Gibbs, your host. And we've had some shootings lately, and it's interesting. It's as we're approaching the election season, I wonder if maybe some of them may have been staged. One wonders. That said, I was alarmed when the Republicans and our president, after the shooting, said, oh, you know what? Maybe we need more background checks or stricter background checks. First of all, no new gun law would have stopped those shootings. Secondly, while I'm not in disagreement with background checks maybe by states, if the states want to do that, it is unconstitutional for the federal government to do it. The Second Amendment ends with the words, shall not be infringed. If you read the preamble to the Bill of Rights, the Bill of Rights apply to the federal government, which means shall not be infringed is the applicable phrase, which in turn means every single federal gun law is unconstitutional. States may make gun laws if necessary. I'm glad that my state has gun laws that say things like my grandchild is too young to go purchase a firearm without parental permission. But sometimes even states go too far. Well, that's up to us in our states to make sure that our states are not infringing on those rights, at least excessively. But for a president who claims to be a Second Amendment champion to call for background checks after shootings, I mean, let's think about the logic here. If we start doing more background checks, who are we looking for? What is the additional parameters of people who cannot get a gun? Are we adding mental illness? What's the definition of mental illness? Is a mental illness simply someone who has been reported as having erratic behavior? Is a mental illness someone who may not agree with the political majority? You see where I'm going here. If you allow them, government, the federal government, to increase what's already an unconstitutional reach into our gun rights, and they are the ones in charge of making the definitions, it's an open door for eventually disarming the public. Confiscation, eventually. The Second Amendment is in place. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, is not just there so that we can have a gun, not just there so that we can protect our home or go hunting. It's there specifically in case the federal government becomes, or any government becomes, tyrannical, and that the people must stand up against it. No, I'm not saying that I'm in favor of us suddenly taking up arms and running out there and, shooting government officials. Founding fathers tried to find a peaceful solution with the British in the beginning. But eventually, if the government keeps heading in a tyrannical direction, the last line of defense against tyranny is an armed populace. And think about the things they're doing now while we're armed. Imagine what they would be willing to do if we weren't. And since the purpose of the Second Amendment is to protect us against a tyrannical government, this idea of banning assault rifles or we can't have a rocket launcher, that's a bunch of beeswax. Why? Because if it's our job to stop a tyrannical government, then our firepower should be equal to or greater than that of the potential tyranny. Whenever there's a shooting, they go after our gun rights. They go after our gun rights because they want to confiscate our firearms. They don't want us to be armed because you're harder to control. In fact, you're almost impossible to control if you have a gun in your hand. And the thing is, too, it's also important when it comes to national security. While we do have terrorist attacks, for example, on American soil, we don't get them like they do in Europe. Why? Because the American public is armed. A terrorist wants unarmed victims. A criminal wants unarmed victims. A tyrannical government wants unarmed victims. Thank you for watching Constitution Study Television. I am Douglas V. Gibbs. PoliticalPistachio.com, DouglasVGibbs.com. Go to either site if you'd like to donate to the cause. There's a yellow donate button on each of them. I'm also an author. A latest book, A Promise of American Liberty. Go to DouglasVGibbs.com and hit the books link. And you can check out all 7 of my books at this point. I'm working on the 8th one right now. United we stand, combined we kick butt. God bless America. God bless you. Where we go one, we go all. Stay safe, stay patriotic, and as always, stay constitutional. We'll see you next time.